In the first century of the Common Era, the Roman Empire stretched across the known world, but in a distant corner of Britannia, one woman rose in fury, a mother, a queen, a warrior. Her name was Boudica, and she would make an empire bleed. The Romans had conquered southern Britain, but conquest didn't always mean control. To avoid constant rebellion, they appointed loyal tribal leaders as client kings, rulers in name, subordinates in truth. One such king was Prasutagus, leader of the Iceni tribe in what is now eastern England. He had walked a delicate line, embracing Roman wealth and protection, while preserving Celtic customs and independence. He paid tribute to Rome, hosted governors, and even adopted Roman-style governance. But he was never truly Roman. His hope was that, by cooperating, he could shield his people from Roman cruelty. When Prasutagus died, he left a will. In his will, King Prasutagus attempted to strike a final balance between peace and survival. He left half his kingdom to the Roman emperor and the other half to his two daughters, hoping this gesture would honor Rome while protecting his bloodline. But Rome had no intention of sharing power with tribal heirs. To them, the Iceni kingdom was not a partnership. It was unfinished conquest. Roman authorities stormed in under the pretense of inheritance rights, backed by legions. They seized property, confiscated weapons, and stripped noble families of status. Resistance was crushed before it could begin. As a warning to all who might defy Rome, the governor ordered Queen Boudica to be whipped publicly, a brutal, calculated humiliation. Even worse, her two young daughters were dragged away and violated by Roman soldiers, their screams drowned by imperial indifference. In that moment, Rome didn't just take land. It shattered a queen, defiled her bloodline, and forged a war no treaty could ever prevent. Boudica did not grieve in silence. She rose in fire. With blood still fresh in the soil and her daughters broken by Roman hands, she sent word across the hills, rivers, and forests of Britannia. She called upon the tribes, not as a queen, but as a mother wronged, a warrior reborn. The Iceni were the first to answer. They had seen their homes burned, their leaders chained, and their queen beaten. Now they sharpened their blades. But the rebellion didn't stop with them. The Trinovantes, once proud rulers of the East, still nursed wounds from Rome's conquest, and they rose without hesitation. One by one, other tribes followed. The Cornovii, the Catuvillani, the Dobuni, ancient enemies, now bound by common hatred. Word spread like wildfire through the groves and valleys. Rome must pay. Smiths forged weapons by torchlight. Priests blessed warriors in sacred circles beneath oaks. Chariots were readied, and war paint was drawn beneath eyes filled with vengeance. By the time the tribes converged under Boudica's banner, she was no longer just a queen. She was the face of resistance itself. Estimates vary, but some say her army swelled to over 100,000 strong, a force not seen since the earliest days of resistance. They did not march with tactics. They marched with purpose, fury, and the ghosts of the fallen at their side. The first to fall was Camulodunum, known today as Colchester, a proud Roman colony built atop the bones of conquered tribes. To the Romans, it was a shining symbol of civilization. To the Britons, it was a daily insult. The city housed retired Roman soldiers who openly mocked the native population. They strutted through the streets as lords of a stolen land, their villas built with stolen labor. Even worse, in the center of the city stood a massive temple, a shrine to the Emperor Claudius, funded by brutal taxation of the local Britons. They called it a temple. The Britons called it a monument to occupation. Rumors of Boudica's uprising reached the Roman veterans stationed there, but they laughed them off. Barbarians with sticks, they said. Still, some feared the storm on the horizon and sent messages begging Rome for reinforcements. But the Roman governor, Suetonius Paulinus, was far to the west, fighting in Wales, and saw no urgency. No legions came, no help arrived, and then the earth shook beneath their feet. Boudica's army descended on Camulodunum like a tidal wave of fire and iron. The city's wooden defenses crumbled in hours. Roman settlers tried to flee but were hunted down in the fields and alleyways. The temple of Claudius was besieged for 2 days, its occupants screaming for rescue that would never come. Eventually, the doors were breached, and the walls painted in blood. No Roman was spared. No mercy was given. Camulodunum was not just captured, it was erased. Rome, at last, understood. Boudica was not a tribal nuisance. She was an existential threat. Next came Londinium, London. Governor Suetonius Paulinus, the highest Roman authority in Britain, abandoned the city. It was torched. Then Verulamium, modern St. Albans, was destroyed the same way. Some sources claim over 70,000 were killed in the rampage. But Rome would not fall so easily. Though cities burned and governors panicked, the empire's core instinct was survival through structure and strategy. Suetonius Paulinus, the Roman governor, was a hardened commander, recently returned from crushing a rebellion in Wales. He marched east with what little remained of his legions, roughly 10,000 soldiers, their armor dented, their ranks thin, but their discipline unbroken. He chose the battlefield with care, a narrow defile flanked by woods, with a dense forest at their rear and a single approach in front. Boudica's army, numbering perhaps 10 times his own, could not flank them nor surround them. It would be a head-on collision, and that was exactly what Suetonius wanted. His troops formed a tight wedge formation, shields locked, javelins ready. The air was heavy with silence. Then the war cries came. Boudica's forces thundered forward, a roaring wave of painted warriors, chariots, spears, and burning fury. She led them herself, standing in her chariot, her daughters beside her, defiant until the end. But rage is not formation. Vengeance is not a shield wall. As they crashed into the Roman front, a storm of pila, Roman throwing spears, cut through the first wave, dropping hundreds before they even made contact. Then came the swords. The Roman lines held, the Britons stumbled. Behind them, their own families and supply wagons blocked retreat. They were trapped between iron and chaos. It was not a battle, it was a massacre. The field ran red, bodies piled upon bodies. And when the dust settled, as many as 80,000 Britons lay dead, according to Roman sources. Roman casualties were in the hundreds. Boudica vanished, her fate uncertain. But her rebellion, her fire, was finally extinguished. Rome had bent, but it had not broken, and the empire had once again reminded the world why it ruled. Boudica vanished from history that day. No Roman soldier ever laid hands on her. No chain ever bound her wrists. Some say she took poison, choosing death over dishonor. Others believe she succumbed to illness, her body finally giving out after months of war and grief. Her daughters, too, disappear into silence, their names never recorded, their fate unknown. But though her body was never found, her legacy never faded. Roman scribes wrote of her with both fear and awe, not as a barbarian, but as a queen who had dared to defy the empire. In their scrolls, she became a warning and a myth. Centuries later, her name would rise again, carved into monuments, whispered in rebellion. She was not conquered, she became legend. Boudica was not a queen who ruled from a throne of gold or marble halls. She ruled from the front lines, chariot wheels caked in mud, her voice rising above the roar of battle. Her power came not from titles, but from the unshakable loyalty of those who bled beside her. For one fleeting moment, she brought the world's greatest empire to its knees. And though centuries have passed, her fire still smolders in the soil of Britain, whispered in the wind, etched in every place where freedom once rose against tyranny. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you liked this video. We post videos weekly. Make sure you turn on notifications so you don't miss a single one.